We're gonna shoot for about 10 minutes. So here's what we're gonna do to get started. We're gonna just start on the ground and get into the best position possible available to you with 1 foot forward. Now the idea here is to get the hips prepped for a day's work. It's a sort of think of it as sort of a very focused sun salutation. We're working on hip function. And the first thing I'm doing is just wobbling back and forth. One is that I'm trying to get this leg comfortable with more hip flexion, and this leg spending a little bit of time in hip extension. And what's nice about this is that you can find the ray, you can find the corner or the vector where you're restricted. Pay attention to differences side to side, and then just keep an eye on your breathing, right? How does that feel? So the first order of business is to wobble around and just give yourself a chance to adopt this position. And then as you want to tighten it up, if you feel like you need a little bit more challenge, bring your foot to your midline. So you just end up bringing the foot to the belly button a little bit of a cheat over. That will make it all a little bit more snug. And you'll see that this actually looks like a foot together squat. If I was squatting with my feet together, this foot is near the line. If you can, imagine bringing your belly button closer to your heel. That will start to tighten that up a little bit more. And again, just keeping an eye on some big breathing here, wobbling around. And then we can start to get interesting. So stay in this high position for me and just look over your shoulder. What I love about this is that first we start to get a little rotation. So my belly button's coming to my spine, but I end up in kind of an impossible position, right? It's really hard to get into this position, but it starts to load my back leg a little bit differently. Now check this out. Go ahead and let the leg fall out to the side if you can do it. Post and just hang on the shoulder, and imagine getting as long as you can through your left hip here. So I have my right foot forward, left leg back, and now what's happening is we're opening and connecting this part of the torso to the hip. You guys feel that? Now see if you can breathe into that space. Really try to use your lungs to power and inflate this side. We're starting to load this side in a really long way. And part of the magic here is we're getting flexion in the spine, extension in the spine, and here we've got a little side bending in the spine. Come on out, back to straight. And then what we're gonna do now, again, stay in this high position and just walk away. What I want you to do is imagine you're gonna actively push your knee out the opposite direction. So you have to reach. Don't lose your toe. Big toe stays on the ground, but I want you to reach out as you look over your shoulder and try to create some space there between those two things. Your head is going one direction, knee is going the other direction. Again, take a couple big powerful breaths. Try to tell your position, your brain, I own this position. Then let's do this. Let's come back to center and see if we can make it a little lower. So we've got different iterations. Diane can get easily both elbows down. I'm fighting for an elbow on this side. Mags is at the limits of her range, which is totally okay. It's going to be a moving target. We don't know what Margaret did this morning or yesterday. We don't know her injury history. So it's always a kind of a living document. So now just wobble around here. And then let's go ahead and reach. Knee goes over to the side. Reach out with that hand. It feels very different. Couple big breaths. Come back to center. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna lift the back leg up. And what I'm gonna try to do is load this toe. So get your feet going straight. And the magic here is that we're spending some time with this toe in this flexed position, which is one of the ways that we're gonna have a more complete lunge shape. So load, see if you can get your quads to fire, squeeze your glutes, and then press your hip to the ground. Come out, squeeze your glutes, flex your quads, and then try to press your hip. So what we're trying to do is teach our brains to keep the glute engaged, even though there's a ton of fascial tension in that long line of the hip all the way down. Just keep it and touch that end range. Squeeze, 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 touch that hip. Come out, and then from this position, we're just gonna let the leg fall out to the side now. So we're going on the knife edge of the foot here, which exaggerates a little bit more rotation in the hip and not so much flexion. So you get a little breather on flexion, but this is a little bit more of a cross-legged position. You imagine we're just kind of doing one cross-leg at a time. Margaret's doing a great job breathing. She's either working on her hip range of motion or she's doing Lamaze. It's totally valuable. And then what I want you to do is go ahead and see if you can get low here. And the magic in this one is knee goes one direction, reach out the other direction if you can on this knife edge of the foot. And you should feel this in part of your hip. That should be a little bit surprising. You're like, what part of my hip is that? So give it a chance to sink. Big breath in, big breath out. Sink in there and just noodle around for a second. Come out of that, and then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna get a little bit of flossing through this hamstring. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna touch my end range, and if I have to come really high, that's okay. The idea is to be able to teach your quadriceps to work against your tight hamstrings or stiff hamstrings, and what we're looking for is that the leg actually gets straight, and you can flex those quadriceps pretty hard and aggressively. To make this more challenging, you can start to bring the foot back if you want. You can start to bring the foot more to the center. And what you're gonna see is that there's a lot of tension in the system. Part of what we're doing here is trying to get your brain to be comfortable with this tension. Now, if you're getting nervy feelings, leave the toe pointed, that's fine. But see if you can flex that quadriceps. If not, see if you can pull the foot in a little bit or add a little bit of foot motion. This is just a way of putting a little more tension in the calf and in the whole nervous tissue system. And then to make it more interesting, you can start to tuck your head. And this is a position of pretty high neural tension. So if that's too much, keep your eyes up. Head up. That will take some of the tension out. But part of what we're trying to do here is get our nervous systems to be comfortable moving and sliding through these tunnels. So just this flex back. And again, this is instead of stretching the hamstrings, we're basically hitting the brakes and making the hamstrings open up a little bit further and then teaching the quadriceps to be able to fire against those hamstrings. And you can see that Diane is doing that from a more of a aggressive splits position, which is going to challenge her shape a little bit more. And Diane and Margaret and I are doing a little bit more of an older person, reasonable expectations of your body position.
What is older person? What's the spectrum?
We'll see in 10 years, Di. Good, all right, so let's tell you what. Let's dismount, switch sides, come back in. No, shake it out. If you need to shake it out, shake it out. And what we're gonna do again, just starting, notice a lot of us have our hands on our feet, just keeping that foot down so it allows you to kind of sink out without the foot wanting to flail out. And then remember, you can tighten this up a little bit just by bringing that foot a little bit more to the midline. So bring it across your body a little bit more. And then play around with this position. Noodle in, noodle out. Touch these corners and shapes. And you'll find where you're most restricted. But part of the magic here is we're spending a lot of time with this leg in flexion, at really end range, but a range that most of us can have access to. And the back leg is in extension. Every once in a while, just squeeze your glutes on the back leg. Make sure you can access that. You're like, okay, I got it. Remind yourself that you can control that position. And then staying high, let's go ahead and look over the same shoulder. Take a couple breaths here. And then let's go ahead and hang on that hand now. So it's like a big turn, add, and just do as best you can to hang on that shape. Lengthen that lateral line. A couple big breaths through the trunk. Try to expand that and just give that a second to open up that trunk to the hip. This connective tissue gets stiff. Come back. Let's look over the other side. Staying tall, looking over your shoulder. Knee goes in one direction, your head goes the other direction. Take a big breath there. Can you reach across with that same side hand as the leg that's forward? So left leg forward, reach across your body with the left hand. Take a big breath. Breathe in that space and come out. Sink, sink, sink. Great. Now from this position, let's see if we can challenge this a little more. Go elbows to the ground. And interesting, I have a little bit more range on this side. My left hip is a little easier than my right hip. Margaret is the same on both sides, which is the goal. So wobble around, keep moving. Then let's go ahead and reach across. Reach, 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 reach. Leg goes the other direction. Sink in, and imagine trying to shut a car door with your hip. You have to lean backwards to shut that door a little bit. Get that hip in there. Big breath. Big breath again. Very nice, very nice. Good, let's take a quick break here for a second. We're gonna lift that toe up on the back, come up on your back, get all of those toes connecting. Be straight with the foot. So get that foot straight. Try not to have it turn out. So we're trying to load that toe in the back, load those toes. This is a position we don't spend enough time in. Then squeeze your glutes, flex your quads, and try to get your chest up. And then come out, squeeze your glute, flex those quads, chest up. We're trying to put some tension in that front of that hip. But we're trying to do so by keeping the brain engaged, not holding my breath, just touching that end range a couple more times. Touch it, hang out there, and it's a big, strong isometric. Some of this is just telling our brains, this is shapes that we have and want to have access to. Good. Now we'll come to the outside of the foot. Same wobbling around for a second. Now remember that the idea of the hip morning spin up is that easy to do while you're drinking coffee, watching the news. Much easier than to get prep later on when you want to go run or exercise. And it's like you've already gotten your hips primed for the day. Don't have to do another thing. Simple morning practice. You can go a little lower, do it. Reach across with that hand, reach out. Sink in, sink, 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 sink. Try to give yourself access to that hip position. Reach, 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 reach. Excellent. We'll come back and we're gonna just do a little bit of flossing now. So touch that resistance. Again, if you get your belly button more to your knee, that's gonna tighten it up. Leg out to the side gives you a little more space. So you can go to your tension. Bend and then flex. Bend it and then straighten it out. Make sure your quads work hard. You press against your hamstrings. And then once you own that, start tensioning up the tissues with the foot. Bring the foot back. We'll put a little more tension in the calf. Right? Shouldn't change the total resistance. We start to add a little more nervous system tension there. That's why we're just touch it for a second. We're not hanging out there. Nervous tissues don't stretch, but we're just making sure that we have access to this position. If it feels nervy at all, leave your toe pointed. Look up. That'll give you some slack in this system. To tighten up the system, head goes down, you round, and we're looking at this position as a big neural tensioner. But the idea here, again, is to get these tissues comfortable running through these nerve tunnels. So later on, I can have access to this position. Teaching my quads to fire against my stiff hamstrings will give me better control. Jumping power, full control power. Teaching the hamstrings to fire will also help the quads to fire will help the hamstrings chill out. Could give me a couple more. And then guess what?